He was the most famous man in the world, or at least he was on his way to becoming him. The money was already there. It was flowing in from records, from movies, from television appearances that made the country stop. The money was new. It was big. It was more than anyone from his part of the country could ever imagine. And everyone saw it. They saw the cars, they saw the house, they saw the clothes. The wealth was not a secret. It was the whole point. It was the American dream played out on a global stage. A poor boy who made good. The story was simple. The story was everywhere. But stories we tell about ourselves are often the simplest ones. The truth is usually messier. It has layers, it has hidden corners, and sometimes an artist hides the truth in plain sight. They put it in a song. Not in a deep, reflective ballad. Not in a soul-bearing confession. But in a fast, loud rock and roll song, a song made for dancing, a song made for jukeboxes and car radios. A song so full of energy and fun that you might miss the one line that tells you everything. The one line that reveals a secret. Not a secret about how much money he had, but a secret about what all that money meant to him. A secret about the ghost that haunted him even inside his new palace. And to understand the secret, you have to go back. Way back. Before the fame, before the music. You have to go back to the beginning. To a small two-room house in Tupelo, Mississippi. This wasn't just humble beginnings, this was poverty. Real, grinding poverty. The kind that leaves a mark on you forever. His father, Vernon, worked odd job. He drove a truck, he worked on a farm, anything to get by. His mother, Gladys, worked in a garment factory. The family was tight. They had to be. They had love, but they rarely had security. They lived under the constant threat of not having enough. Not enough for rent. Not enough for food. Not enough for a doctor. This wasn't just a phase. It was his entire childhood. He knew the feeling of want. He knew the feeling of watching his parents worry. He knew what it was like to be the poor kid. When the family moved to Memphis, things were not much better. They lived in public housing. He took a job driving a truck, just like his father. He was making $100 a week, and for him, for his family, that was a good living. It was stability. It was more than they'd had for a long, long time. He was a good son. He gave his money to his parents. He wanted to take care of them. He wanted to erase the worry he had seen in their eyes his whole life. This is the man who walked into Sun's studio. Not a future king, not a global icon. Just a kid from Memphis with a good voice, a kid who loved music, a kid who wanted to make his mother proud, a kid who wanted to earn a steady paycheck. He wasn't thinking about mansions and private jets. He was thinking about getting by. He was thinking about being able to buy his mother a nice house one day. A house with indoor plumbing and a real kitchen. A house where she would never have to worry about the landlord again. Then it happened. The explosion. It wasn't gradual, it was sudden, it was violent. One moment he was a truck driver. The next, he was on the radio. Then he was on TV. Screaming girls followed him everywhere. The money started coming in, and it wasn't $100 a week. It was thousands, then tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands. It was an amount of money that was almost abstract. It was unimaginable. So what does a poor boy do with unimaginable wealth? He tries to make it real. He tries to make it solid. The first thing he did was buy that house for his mother. Not just a nice house, a palace, Graceland. It became the symbol of his success. But it was more than that. It was a fortress. It was a place where his family could be safe. It was a physical manifestation of his promise to them. I will take care of you. We will never be poor again. We will never have to worry again. He surrounded himself with the people he grew up with. His friends from Memphis, his family. They became his entourage, the Memphis Mafia. To the outside world, it might have looked like he was just paying his buddies to hang out with him. But it was deeper than that. He was creating a bubble. He was bringing his past with him. He was trying to keep his world from changing too fast. He was holding on to the people who knew him before he was famous. The people who knew the boy from Tupelo. And his generosity was legendary. He gave away cars. Cadillacs were his favorite. He'd give them to friends. He'd give them to family. He once gave one to a stranger, a bank teller he saw admiring his. He would pay people's hospital bills. He would buy houses for his friends. This wasn't just showing off. It was a compulsion. It was the act of a man who knew what it felt like to have nothing. The joy wasn't in having the money. The joy was in giving it away. It was in using it to erase the kind of pain and worry that he knew so well. Every car he gave away, every bill he paid, was him fighting back against the ghost of poverty. He was proving to himself over and over that he had made it, that he was safe. But did he feel safe? A person who has never known hunger doesn't hoard food. A person who has always had a roof over their head doesn't obsess over building a fortress. The very things he did with his money showed a deep, abiding insecurity, the lavish spending, the need to constantly give. It was all a way of keeping the fear at bay. The fear that one day it could all disappear. That one day he could wake up and be back in that two-room shack in Tupelo. This fear is the secret. It's the thing he couldn't just come out and say. Kings aren't supposed to be afraid, but boys from Tupelo are. And so, we come to the song. It was 1959. He was at the absolute peak of his fame. He was out of the army and making his big comeback. He was the biggest star in the world. He recorded a song, a fast, driving rock and roll number. It's not a deep song. It's a song about love. Or, more accurately, about needing love. It's full of swagger and confidence. He sounds like a man who can have anything he wants. He boasts about his power, his charm, his ability to make the girls swoon. It's pure rock and roll bravado. And then, tucked into the middle of all this boasting is the line. It goes by so fast you could miss it. He's listing his assets, not his financial assets. His romantic ones, his good luck charms. He sings, "I got a wishbone in my pocket." It's a classic, simple image. A symbol of hope. A folk superstition. Something a kid might carry. It fits the playful tone of the song. But it's the next part of the line that matters. The part that opens a window into his soul. I got $1 in my shoe. $1 in my shoe. Think about that for a moment. In 1959, this man was a millionaire many times over. He could buy 100 Cadillacs without blinking. $1 was, to him, effectively worthless. It was around the era, so why would he sing about it? Why would he put that specific image in a song? Because it wasn't about the monetary value. It was about something much deeper. The idea of putting a coin or a bill in your shoe is an old folk tradition. It's a superstition. It's a good luck charm meant to attract wealth. Or, more importantly, it's a charm to ensure you are never truly, completely broke. It's a belief born of poverty. It's something you do when a single dollar represents a significant amount of security. It's the financial planning of the desperate. It's the prayer of someone who has known what it is to have absolutely nothing. It is a symbol of financial anxiety. For him to sing that line at that point in his life is a stunning confession. He is, in effect, telling the world that despite the mansion, despite the cars, despite the gold records, he is still the kind of person who needs a lucky dollar in his shoe. He is telling us that the boy from Tupelo is still there. The boy who watched his parents struggle. The boy who knew the fear of having nothing. That boy is still inside him. And that boy is still scared. He didn't need $1 in his shoe to buy anything. He needed it for the same reason he needed Graceland. For the same reason he needed to give away cars. For the same reason he surrounded himself with his old friends. He needed it for security. But this was a different kind of security. It wasn't a wall of money or a physical fortress. It was a psychological one. It was a small, secret ritual. A private acknowledgement of where he came from. A talisman against the fear that it could all go away. The line is paired with a wishbone in my pocket. Both are symbols of luck. Both are things a person relies on when they feel that their fate is not entirely in their own hands. A millionaire in 1959 did not need luck to make money. He was a machine that generated money. His name was a brand. His voice was a mint. But he still felt the need for these simple, almost childish charms. It shows a profound disconnect between his external reality and his internal one. On the outside, he was the king, in total control. On the inside, he was still the boy hoping for a lucky break. This is the secret that the song reveals. His wealth was a performance. It was a shield. But behind the shield was a man still haunted by the poverty of his youth. The fear of losing it all was so deeply ingrained in him that it manifested in these small, superstitious ways. He couldn't shake the mindset of a poor man. You can take the boy out of Tupelo, but you can't take Tupelo out of the boy. The dollar in the shoe was his proof. It's an incredible moment of vulnerability, hidden inside a song that is anything but vulnerable. The rest of the song is pure confidence. He's bragging about being a big hunk of love. He's the prize that all the women want. But that one small line betrays him. It's like a crack in the facade. Through that crack, you can see the scared kid inside. The kid who feels like all this fame and fortune is a fragile dream that could end at any moment. The kid who needs a little extra luck, just in case. Think of the other wealthy people of his era, of Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin. They projected an image of effortless cool. They seemed to be born in a tuxedo. They sang about wealth and luxury as if it were their birthright. Their relationship with money seemed casual, easy. They were comfortable with it. He never was. He was always a little bit in awe of it. A little bit scared of it. A little bit like a kid in a candy store who can't believe he's been given the keys. He spent it, he gave it away, he flaunted it. but he never seemed to truly believe it was his to keep. The dollar in the shoe is the ultimate symbol of this. It's a hedge against disaster. It's the emergency fund of the soul. It says, even if I lose Graceland, even if the movies stop, even if the records stop selling, I won't have nothing. I'll still have this dollar. Of course, a single dollar would do him no good if he lost everything, but that's not the point of a superstition. The point is the feeling of security it provides, however irrational. It's a mental comfort blanket, and so he sang the line. Night after night, on stages around the country, in recording studios, he sang it with a smile, with a sneer, with all the rock and roll energy he could muster. And millions of people danced to it, they sang along, and they probably never once stopped to think about what it meant. They heard it as just another fun throwaway line in a fun throwaway song. But it wasn't. It was a confession. It was a cry for help from the highest pedestal in the world. It was the secret history of his wealth, told in 6 simple words. He built a wall of money around himself to keep the world out, but he also built it to keep the past in. The past was always there, in his accent, in his love for gospel and blues music, in his diet, and in his deep-seated, unshakable fear of being poor again. He was running from poverty his whole life, but no matter how fast he ran, or how many cars he bought, it was always right there, chasing him. The dollar in his shoe was him looking over his shoulder, acknowledging that the ghost was still there. It changes how you hear the song. It's no longer just a simple piece of rock and roll fun. It's a psychological portrait, it's a biography in miniature, it's a testament to the fact that money can change your circumstances, but it doesn't always change you. It can buy you a mansion, but it can't buy you peace of mind. It can make you a king, but it can't erase the memory of being a pauper. The secret he revealed was not a number in a bank account. It wasn't a hidden investment. It was something far more personal. It was the truth of his own heart. The truth that all the money in the world couldn't make him feel completely secure. The truth that, in some small part of his mind, he was still that poor boy from Mississippi, just hoping for a little bit of luck, carrying a wishbone in his pocket and a single dollar in his shoe. The song was his 1959 hit. It was called A Big Hunk o' Love.